The Baltimore Ravens are changing the way football is going to look for the next decade. Now, this seems like a really bold statement, but it's not anything new. And it might be a stretch to say Baltimore is the one changing things, but more so that they're spearheading the change that other teams are closely following. The NFL is a league with rich history and traditions, but it's always evolving. Players and coaches change things in the offseason year after year to find any sort of small advantage to win games. And when they find a change that works for their team, it's a copycat league. Everyone hops on the new trend, and it stays that way for about a decade before a new pioneer decides to switch it up again. It's very cyclical, or we see these cycles over and over, and I think we're on the brink of another cycle change. Let me explain. When we think of 2000s football, we think of incredible running backs like LaDainian Tomlinson, Edgerrin James, Shaun Alexander, Tiki Barber, and others, and obviously the start of the Brady Manning era. And on the defensive side of the ball, we think of massive bruising middle linebackers like Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, Teddy Bruschi, and Joey Porter. These are 250 to 260 pound run-stuffing field generals who use their body weight and helmets as weapons. Big on big. Big linebackers, hard-hitting safeties, massive D linemen. And when you have these guys that are so physically dominant, you have to be the David to their Goliath and fight a different battle. And this is how the cycle of the league starts to change. You beat these guys by not trying them, not running it down the middle. You don't play their game, you play to their weaknesses, and that's what teams started to do. In the 2010s, we saw the Saints, the Broncos with Peyton Manning, the Eagles and the Chiefs start to spread it out and air it out more than ever, more so of a college air raid offense. We still, of course, had teams like the Legion of Boom in beast mode and the Patriots with their balanced attack, but as other teams started going gun more than ever, 3 to 4 receiver sets, 5 wide, it made these big run-stuffing linebackers and hard-hitting safeties play in space. They were having to cover slot receivers, and tight ends started to become more hybrid. And as this evolved, more and more teams started adapting this play style as the Saints, Broncos, Eagles, and Chiefs. And as this evolved, more and more teams started adapting this play style, as these teams were the most potent and high-scoring offenses year after year. And here comes the cycle. Copycat league. Receivers started getting drafted higher and higher. 40 times started to be more important than ever. Tight ends started to be split out a lot more. And at the same time, the running back position became less and less valuable. Teams were assembling track stars and pairing them with big-armed quarterbacks. So the defenses had to change. Linebackers coming out of college knew they couldn't be 250 plus pounds and run a 4.6. They had to cover in space, and so did the safeties. And so over the course of years, as offenses got faster and faster and started stretching the field horizontally and vertically, defenses had to get smaller and faster to keep up with all the speed. And today's league, defensive ends aren't nearly as much as part of the defensive line as they are pass rushing freaks of nature who run 4.4s. And linebackers are more becoming hybrid safeties, safeties becoming primarily part of the pass game, and it's more of a bonus if they're aggressive in the run game. But there seems to always be a thresh point where offenses start to be on the disadvantageous side of things. And this year, we are seeing defenses have more success than the offense, which is seen this year with a lot of low-scoring games. But let's look at some teams that are having success this season and see if we can spot any trends. Teams this week that are ranked in the top 10, I want to highlight a few of them. The Eagles, the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Titans, and the Jets, and the 49ers just outside the top 10. These are all running football teams, and I don't think it's any sort of mistake. All of these teams either have very good offensive lines, multiple tight ends, a stud running back, fullback, a quarterback who can run, and some have all of them, aka the Ravens. Now, there are still teams out there like the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals that are star-studded across the field. They have superior weapons, quarterbacks, and play calling to go out and still embarrass even the league's best defenses. But these teams are starting to feel like anomalies now and will become even more rare in future years because all of the other teams I mentioned earlier are taking the David to the Goliath approach and attacking the defense's weaknesses. I think these teams are seeing insanely talented edge rushers like Micah Parsons, and their approach to him is that's cute. You're 40 times amazing. You can get into the backfield in the blink of an eye, but how are you going to deal with a 320-pound Patrick Ricard coming across the formation to kick you out on a run play? And we saw this in the Ravens' last game against the Bucs. Devin White is incredibly athletic and runs a 4.42. He can run sideline to sideline and cover in space. But rookie center for the Ravens, Tyler Linderbaum, was blocking him 15 yards back, and they were running it right up the middle with ease. I mean, just look at the running distribution in the Ravens versus Bucs game. Between multiple fresh-legged running backs, the most dynamic running quarterback in the league, a really good offensive line, tight ends, and fullback, they dominated the line of scrimmage, time of possession, and the defense was exhausted. They would go out and have a 15-play drive, and if the Bucs went out and had a 3-and-out, they would be right back on the field to do it all over again with fresh bodies, and the defense was gassed. This is exactly what the Titans, Giants, Niners, Jets, and Cowboys are also having so much success with. And this is why I think the 49ers spent so much draft capital on Trey Lance and why the Titans took Malik Willis, because obviously you have to be able to throw the ball to have success in the NFL. But if you can have an extra running back in the equation for the defense to account for, like the Eagles, Ravens, and Giants all have, it puts so much pressure on a defense. And even though the Ravens, the Titans, and the Giants have really mediocre receiver talent compared to the rest of the top 10, they're still winning a lot of games, which just hasn't been the recipe for success on offense in the past decade. So this video is really for one thing, to let you guys know so you guys can be ahead of the game, knowing that we're at the beginning of another cycle where the league is going to slowly bleed into a more run-dominant football. And it's going to happen until defenses start drafting 255-pound middle linebackers, hard-hitting safeties, and edge defenders that can squeeze the hole in the run game. And in another 10 years or so, we'll be having this same conversation after the threshold has been met once again. Defenses will get too big, and the track stars will once again thrive. But to be very clear, this is not an overnight process. This will take years, and the teams like the Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals will continue to have success. But we're starting to see the middle of the pack. They'll begin to feel this and slowly have to start converting. And I started this video by saying the Ravens are the ones spearheading this. There's obviously a lot of run-heavy teams that we mentioned earlier, but after the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson and fully bought into an identity of his running ability with 2 to 3 tight end sets, a stable of running backs, and a fullback on the field on most snaps, and have had so much success with it, I will give them credit as frontman to the next cycle of the NFL game style. But that's just what I think. And I think we had to cover this because I think it's been clear this year more than any that defenses seem to have the advantage on offenses in most games this season. And I think it's because they've figured out more or less what teams are trying to do, and now they have the athleticism to defend it. And the teams that are surviving this and power ranked in the top 10s are the teams mostly who are going against status quo. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think we're onto something here? And if you do or disagree, let me know down in the comments. Make sure to like this video if you like videos like these. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy daily NFL content. That's all I have for you today, but as always, I will see you all tomorrow. Peace!